Commander Lee Hyun stared at the massive holographic display that filled the entire wall of the Colonial Defense Headquarters. Red dots scattered across the three-dimensional star map showed hegemony fleet positions, and each dot represented hundreds of alien warships. The numbers made his stomach turn cold. "Sir, incoming priority transmission from New Terra Colony." Communications Officer Park Mina called out from her station. Her usually steady voice carried a tremor that everyone in the room could hear. "They're requesting immediate evacuation assistance." Lee Hyun walked closer to the display and touched a control panel. The star map zoomed in on the outer rim territories where human colonies had flourished for decades. 47 million people lived on those distant worlds, building lives, raising families, creating art and science. Now they all faced death. "What's the status of our evacuation fleet?" he asked. "We have 230 transport vessels working around the clock," reported Captain No Jun-ho from the logistics station. "But sir, even if we could move people non-stop for the next month, we can only evacuate maybe 15 million colonists. The rest..." He didn't finish the sentence. Dr. Kim Jae-won, the chief xenobiologist who had spent 2 years studying hegemony culture, stood near the tactical display with his arms crossed. His face showed confusion and fear. "Commander, I still don't understand this sudden change. During our first contact missions, the hegemony representatives seemed interested in peaceful trade. They shared scientific data. Some even seemed curious about human art and music. What changed?" asked Colonel Yang Sora, the head of military intelligence. Kim Jae-won pulled up his research files on a smaller screen. "According to my analysis of their communications, they view our expansion rate as absolutely unprecedented in galactic history. Most species take 5,000 to 10,000 years to spread across a dozen star systems. We did it in 2 centuries." Lee Hyun studied the data. Humanity had indeed expanded faster than anyone expected. The development of faster-than-light travel had opened the galaxy like a flower, and humans had poured out into space with endless enthusiasm. Every habitable world became home to millions of colonists within decades. "They're calling us a cancer," Yang Sora continued, reading from intelligence reports. "Their internal communications describe humanity as a rapidly spreading infection that will consume the galaxy if not stopped immediately." The main screen flickered and displayed an incoming message from Admiral Chen Weiming, commander of the Outer Defense Fleet. His face appeared, covered in soot and showing obvious signs of stress. "Command, we just received confirmation that hegemony advanced scouts have entered the Kepler system. Our long-range sensors detect at least 500 vessels moving toward the colony world. Any attempt at communication?" Lee Hyun asked. "Negative, sir. They're ignoring all hails and broadcasting the same message on repeat. Comply with evacuation orders, or face immediate destruction. No negotiation, no discussion. They've given the colonists 6 hours to abandon everything and leave." Park Mina looked up from her communications console with wide eyes. "Sir, I'm receiving similar reports from 8 other colony systems. The hegemony fleets are moving simultaneously across all our outer territories." Lee Hyun felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders like a heavy blanket. Through the observation decks, transparent aluminum windows, Earth looked peaceful and beautiful, a blue marble hanging in space. But it suddenly seemed very small compared to the vast hegemony empire that controlled 3,000 worlds and had crushed dozens of species over 5 millennia. "Show me the comparison data," he ordered. A new display activated, showing the relative sizes of human space versus hegemony territory. Humanity's 12 colonized systems looked like tiny dots next to the massive sphere of hegemony space. Their technology was centuries ahead of human capabilities. Their fleets numbered in the millions of ships. They had resources beyond imagination. How many species have successfully resisted them? Yang Sora asked quietly. Kim Jae-won checked his xenohistorical database. According to available records, ... The hegemony has a perfect victory record over the past 5,000 years. Some species tried to negotiate, others fought massive wars. A few attempted to hide in distant star systems. None survived as independent civilizations. What happened to them? Complete absorption into hegemony society. Their cultures were eliminated. Their populations were relocated to hegemony worlds as laborers. Their home planets were converted to serve hegemony purposes. Lee Hae-in walked to the observation windows and pressed his palm against the cool surface. Below, he could see the lights of cities, the movement of orbital stations, the gentle glow of humanity's achievements. All of it would be lost if they retreated to Earth's solar system. Humanity would become prisoners in their own birthplace, watching the stars but never again able to reach them. "Sir," Park Mana called softly, "we're receiving distress signals from 3 colony worlds. The hegemony fleets have begun. Selective bombardments." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. The aliens were demonstrating their power by destroying specific targets. Military installations first, then industrial centers. Finally, civilian areas, if compliance didn't come quickly enough. Lee Hae-in closed his eyes and made a decision that would change everything. Dr. Choi Dae-in walked through the sterile white corridors of Laboratory Complex 7, buried 3 kilometers beneath the lunar surface. His security badge beeped as he approached the restricted archives section. The computer system hadn't seen these files accessed in over 30 years, and, for good reason. The heavy metal door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing rows of data storage units that hummed quietly in the dim lighting. Choi moved to Terminal 77 Alpha and placed his palm on the biometric scanner. After a moment, the screen flickered to life, displaying a simple message. Project Prometheus classification level, Omega Black. Computer, open all files related to Planet Killer protocol development, he said quietly. The screen filled with technical diagrams, test results, and video recordings from the project's early days. Choi remembered those times clearly. He had been young then, full of hope about humanity's ability to create new worlds from dead rock and metal. The goal was simple: take lifeless planets and transform them into gardens where millions could live. His fingers moved across the control panel, bringing up a 3-dimensional model of a planet. The image rotated slowly, showing the layers beneath the surface: crust, mantle, outer core, and inner core. Tiny dots appeared throughout the model, representing the nanobots they had designed. "Emergency Council, this is Dr. Choi. I'm ready for the briefing," he announced into his communication device. 3 holographic figures materialized in front of him. General Han Myung stood with her arms crossed, her military uniform crisp. Despite the late hour, Director Lim Sung-ho looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes from days of emergency meetings. Between them, Colonel Park Jun-wook represented the engineering corps. "Doctor, we need to understand what you found in those old files," General Han said immediately. "Our conventional weapons are useless against hegemony technology. We need alternatives." Choi activated the planetary model so all 3 could see it clearly. Project Prometheus was designed to terraform dead worlds in decades, instead of centuries. The process uses specially engineered nanobots, tiny machines smaller than bacteria. We inject billions of them into a planet's mantle through deep drilling operations. "What do these nanobots do?" asked Director Lim. "They create controlled fusion reactions throughout the planet's interior," Choi explained. "The heat and energy from these reactions can melt ice, create atmospheres, and generate the conditions needed for life. We tested it successfully on asteroid designation KX7749. Colonel Park leaned forward. "I remember reading about that test. Didn't something go wrong?" Choi's expression grew dark. "The nanobots worked too well. Instead of gradual terraforming, over decades, The fusion reactions cascaded beyond our control. The asteroid didn't slowly transform, it exploded from the inside out within 72 hours. The holographic planet model suddenly showed cracks spreading across its surface. Molten rock burst through the cracks as the entire world began tearing itself apart. The three military leaders watched in fascination and horror. The research station barely escaped. Choi continued. We lost the entire asteroid and nearly killed the research team. That's when the project was classified and shelved. General Han studied the destruction patterns carefully. Dr. Choi, could this process be replicated on inhabited worlds? Theoretically, yes, but the consequences would be... Choi paused, struggling with the words. Complete planetary destruction. Everything on the surface would be killed when the crust fractures. The atmosphere would be blown away. It would be genocide on a scale never seen in human history. Just then, urgent alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Red warning lights flashed as emergency broadcasts filled the laboratory. All stations. This is Colonial Defense Command. We have confirmation of hostile action at Kepler Colony. Hegemony forces are engaging civilian evacuation vessels. Choi quickly switched his display to show incoming news feeds. The grainy transmission from Kepler showed massive alien ships, each one larger than a human city, hovering over the colony world. Bright energy beams lanced down from the ships, striking evacuation transports as they tried to escape the planet's gravity well. They're not even giving the colonists a chance to leave, Colonel Park said quietly. The transmission showed families running through burning streets, children crying as their parents carried them toward landing pads. Then the image dissolved into static as the communication relay was destroyed. Director Lim's face had turned pale. How many people were on that world? 2.4 million, General Han replied, checking her datapad. Men, women, children, elderly. The hegemony is killing them all. Dr. Choi stared at the blank screen, where moments before they had watched people dying. Director, they're not interested in taking prisoners or allowing evacuations. This is extermination. General Han said slowly, if we modified this planet-killer technology, how quickly could we deploy it? Choi ran calculations in his head. We would need to adapt our deep space mining platforms to carry the nanobots. The drilling equipment already exists. If we bypassed all safety protocols and worked around the clock, maybe 3 weeks. And the target range. Any planet with a solid core. The nanobots don't care if it's inhabited or not. They just destabilize the geological structure until the world destroys itself. Director Lim closed his eyes. We're talking about becoming exactly what we've always feared, a species capable of destroying entire worlds. The laboratory fell, silent except for the humming of computers and the distant sound of alarms still echoing through the complex. The asteroid belt shipyards had never seen such frantic activity. Chief Engineer Yoon Taemin moved between workstations, checking progress on the most dangerous project in human history. Sparks flew from welding torches as teams worked without stopping, converting peaceful mining ships into carriers of planetary destruction. Status report on Vessel Modification 7, Yoon called out to his team. Technical Specialist Oh Yoon-young looked up from her control panel, sweat beading on her forehead despite the cool recycled air. Sir, the nanobots are loaded and secured. The drilling equipment has been modified for rapid deployment. Each device contains enough nanobots to destabilize a planetary core within 72 hours of injection. Yoon nodded grimly. These mining ships had spent decades peacefully extracting resources from asteroids and dead moons. Now they carried weapons that could kill entire worlds. The irony wasn't lost on him. Ships designed to build humanities. Future now carried the tools to destroy billions of lives. How many vessels are ready? He asked. 12 ships fully converted and tested, Oh replied. The nanobots are stable but armed. One small mistake in handling and we could accidentally. trigger a reaction that would destroy this entire facility. At the docking bay, Captain Bae Junsik gathered his volunteer crew for final briefings. The men and women around him had all signed up knowing they probably wouldn't return home. Their mission was simple but deadly: deliver planet-killer devices to 12 major hegemony worlds without being detected. Listen carefully, Bae told his team. We're not soldiers or heroes. We're delivery drivers carrying the most dangerous cargo in the galaxy. Our ships look like ordinary mining vessels. Our identification papers show routine equipment deliveries to remote systems. The hegemony won't suspect anything until it's too late. Lieutenant Park Sujin raised her hand. Captain, what happens after we make the deliveries? Bae met her eyes steadily. We try to escape, but these are deep penetration missions into the heart of hegemony space. The chances of making it back are very small. Anyone who wants to change their mind can do so now with no shame. Nobody moved. All 12 volunteers remained standing, ready to sacrifice themselves for humanity's survival. Meanwhile, thousands of light years away, Lieutenant Commander Nam In-ho coordinated the evacuation of the remaining human colonies. His small fleet of military escort ships darted between larger hegemony vessels, using hit-and-run tactics to buy precious time for civilian transports. Nova Base, this is Rescue Fleet 7, Nam transmitted over the emergency channel. We've got 300 more civilians aboard, requesting immediate jump coordinates to safe zone. The reply crackled with static. Fleet 7, be advised. Hegemony forces have destroyed the Mars relay station. We're routing all evacuees to Luna Base now. Nam watched his tactical display as more red dots appeared, hegemony scout ships closing in on their position. His small fleet couldn't fight them directly, but they could run and hide, drawing the aliens away from the evacuation ships. All units, scatter formation. Make them chase us instead of the transports, he ordered. For 3 days, this deadly game of hide-and-seek continued, but the hegemony had more ships, better sensors, and unlimited patience. One by one, Nam's escort vessels were destroyed or forced to retreat. On the 4th day, Nam sent his final transmission from Proxima Station. Command, this is Nam In-ho. The hegemony has reached the civilian shelters. They're not taking prisoners. I repeat, they are not taking prisoners. The transmission showed scenes that would haunt everyone who watched. Alien soldiers moved through evacuation centers, methodically killing everyone they found. Children, elderly people, medical staff wearing Red Cross symbols, none were spared. The hegemony wasn't interested in conquest or slavery. They wanted complete extermination of the human species. They're executing everyone, Nam continued, his voice shaking with rage and horror. Civilians, children, medical personnel. This isn't conquest. It's genocide. They mean to kill every human in the galaxy. The transmission ended abruptly as hegemony forces reached Nam's command center. Back at Earth Command, Admiral Kohayan Wu received the final confirmation from Captain Bae's deployment team. All 12 planet-killer devices were now in position around key hegemony worlds. The weapons sat quietly on the surface of major planets, disguised as ordinary mining equipment. Nobody suspected that these innocent-looking machines contained the power to tear worlds apart. Sir, all devices are in position and ready for activation, reported his communications officer. Captain Bae's teams have successfully reached their targets undetected. KO studied the strategic display showing hegemony fleet movements. Massive alien dreadnoughts were approaching Earth's outer defenses, confident in their technological superiority. They had crushed dozens of species over thousands of years. To them, humanity was just another primitive race to be eliminated. Once we activate these weapons, there's no going back, KO told his bridge crew. Humanity will never be the same. We'll become the species that destroyed 12 worlds and killed billions of people. His officers stood quietly, understanding the weight of what they were about to do. Through the bridge viewports, they could see the approaching hegemony fleet, hundreds of ships, each capable of destroying human cities with single shots. Ko placed his hand on the activation console and waited for the final order. Admiral Vex stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the small blue world called Earth grow larger on his display screens. The primitive human defenses looked pathetic compared to his massive fleet of 3,000 warships. Each vessel was larger than most human cities and carried weapons that could crack continents. Subcommander Thalanex, what is the status of our advanced forces? Vextera asked, his forearms crossed behind his back in the traditional hegemony pose of authority. Sir, we have successfully eliminated human resistance at 17 colony worlds. The species shows typical defensive patterns. They cluster around their population centers and attempt to evacuate civilians. Very predictable. Vexera nodded with satisfaction. In his 300-year military career, he had overseen the subjugation of 17 different species. Humans were proving no more challenging than any of the others. They had some clever technology for such a young race, but nothing that could match 5,000 years of hegemony advancement. Begin orbital bombardment of their military installations, he ordered. Target their defense satellites first, then the lunar bases. Leave the population centers untouched for now. The humans must witness their complete defeat before we decide whether they deserve extinction or slavery. The hegemony plasma cannons fired in perfect coordination. Streams of superheated energy lanced through space, striking human defensive positions with devastating accuracy. The Luna defense grid, humanity's pride and joy, was reduced to molten metal and debris within minutes. On Earth, Admiral Ko Hoyanwu watched the destruction from the Colonial Defense Command Center. The tactical displays showed one defensive position after another, going dark. Thousands of brave men and women died in the first wave of attacks, vaporized instantly by weapons they couldn't even comprehend. Sir, casualty reports are coming in, announced Communications Officer Park Mina, tears streaming down her face. Luna Base 7 is completely destroyed. 1,500 personnel, no survivors. Ko clenched his fists as more reports flooded the command center. The hegemony was systematically dismantling humanity's defenses while keeping them alive to watch. It was psychological warfare designed to break their spirit before the final killing blow. Commander Song Ji-hai, what's the status of our special operation? Ko asked quietly. Song checked her secure communication channels. Sir, all 12 planet killer devices are in final position and armed. Captain Bay's teams successfully deployed the weapons on the target worlds before hegemony security detected them. Ko looked around the command center at his staff. These people had families, children, dreams for the future. In a few hours, they would all be dead unless he made an impossible choice. He thought about his daughter Jinne, studying xenobiology at New Seoul University. She had always believed that humans and aliens could coexist peacefully. He thought about his wife Sumin, tending her vegetable garden on their small farm outside the city. She grew tomatoes and peppers that she shared with their neighbors. Sir, Song continued, the devices are ready for activation on your command. K closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of billions of lives on his shoulders. When he opened them again, his gaze was hard as steel. Activate Planet Killer Protocol, all devices. Simultaneously, Song's hands trembled slightly as she entered the activation codes. Confirmation received from all 12 devices. Nanobots are being released now. 12 light-years away, on the hegemony core world of Vexmar, Dr. Velenoth was conducting routine seismic monitoring when his instruments began showing impossible readings. The planet's crust was registering microtremors in patterns he had never seen before. Computer, run. Diagnostic on seismic sensors, he commanded, all sensors functioning normally. The computer replied, in the melodic hegemony language. Within 2 hours, The tremors had grown stronger. Velanoth contacted the planetary authority, but they dismissed his concerns. Vexmar was geologically stable and had experienced no major seismic activity for over 10 million years. By the 4th hour, cracks began appearing in the planet's surface. Molten rock started seeping through the fissures, as temperatures deep underground rose beyond anything in the geological record. Velanoth realized with growing horror that something was destabilizing the planet's core itself. Similar scenes played out across 11 other major hegemony worlds. Ancient civilizations that had existed for millennia watched in disbelief as their home planets began tearing themselves apart from the inside. The nanobots worked with terrifying efficiency, creating cascading fusion reactions that spread through each world's mantle like a deadly infection. Back in space near Earth, Admiral Vexthera was preparing for the final assault when urgent alarms began sounding throughout his flagship. "Sir, we're receiving emergency transmissions from multiple homeworlds," reported Sub-Commander Tholanex, his usual confidence replaced by confusion and fear. The main display screen flickered to life, showing frantic messages from Hegemony Command centers across their empire. Vexmar Command to all fleets. Planetary emergency, geological catastrophe in progress, requesting immediate evacuation assistance. More messages followed in rapid succession. World after world reported the same impossible situation. Complete planetary destabilization occurring simultaneously across the hegemony's core systems. "Sir, we've lost contact with the High Command on Nexmar," Tholanex reported, his voice barely above a whisper. "The planet appears to be ... breaking apart." Vexthera stared at the tactical display as communication. Links to his civilization's most important worlds went dark one by one. His certainty turned to horror as he realized the truth. Somehow, these primitive humans had struck at the very heart of the Hegemony Empire while he was busy destroying their outer defenses. The conference hall on Kepler-4 to be buzzed with nervous energy as delegates from 47 different species took their seats. Representative Shinbora adjusted her translation device and looked out at the strangest gathering in galactic history. Former enemies sat next to former slaves, all united by the shocking events of 6 months ago. "Honored delegates," Shin began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. "We gather today not as conquerors or victims, but as survivors, trying to build something new from the ashes of the old order." In the front row, Ambassador Kasmiran of the Zephyrian Republic leaned forward. His people had been enslaved by the hegemony for over 2,000 years. Now they were free, but they looked at the human delegation with a mixture of gratitude and terror. "The humans saved us," Kethmarin had told his advisors before the meeting. "But they also showed they can destroy entire worlds without warning. How do we trust such power?" Shin continued her address, aware of the weight of every word. "We never wanted to become destroyers. Our species dreamed of exploring the stars, making friends with other civilizations, sharing knowledge and culture. But when faced with complete extinction, we chose survival over moral purity." In the back of the hall, a group of hegemony survivors sat in silence. Their once mighty empire had crumbled overnight when 12 of their core worlds were destroyed. Admiral Vexthera himself sat among them, no longer the confident conqueror, but a broken leader watching his civilization's ruins. On Earth, Dr. Choi Dae-hyun worked in his laboratory, but now his research focused on a very different goal. Instead of creating weapons, he spent every waking hour trying to help the billions of hegemony refugees scattered across the galaxy. Status report on the refugee camps. He asked his assistant, Dr. Lee Min-young. "We have 700,000 hegemony civilians in temporary shelters across human space," Lee replied. "Medical care is being provided, but many are suffering from severe psychological trauma. They've lost everything, their homes, their families, their entire civilization." Choi stared at the data on his screen. His Prometheus technology, originally designed to create new worlds for human colonization, had instead become the instrument of the greatest genocide in galactic history. The irony was almost too painful to bear. "Keep working on the psychological support programs," he said quietly. "These people are alive because of choices I helped make. The least I can do is try to help them rebuild their lives." In space near the former hegemony border, Captain Unsu Jin commanded a mixed patrol fleet that would have been impossible to imagine just months ago. Her flagship carried crews from 6 different species, including former hegemony soldiers who now served alongside the humans who had destroyed their worlds. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from a refugee convoy," reported Lieutenant Park Dongwook from the communications station. "Set course to intercept, on order to deploy medical ships, and prepare for emergency evacuation procedures." As her fleet moved to help the refugees, reflected on how much had changed. The other species in the galaxy respected humanity now, but that respect came with fear. Every diplomatic meeting began with the unspoken question hanging in the air: would humanity use the planet killer protocol again? "The galaxy sees us differently now," she had reported to Earth Command the previous week. "We're no longer the young species trying to find our place among the stars. We're the species that can destroy worlds. Some aliens approach us with respect, others with terror, but none treat us as equals anymore. We're either saviors or monsters, depending on who's asking." On Earth, the changes were visible everywhere. In Seoul, New York, and Lagos, massive memorial walls displayed the names of those lost during the evacuation efforts. But controversially, the walls also bore the names of the 12 destroyed hegemony worlds and estimates of their populations. Many humans protested this decision, but the government insisted that remembering the cost was essential. Children attended schools, where they learned about the Hegemony War as part of required history classes. Young students studied tactical displays and casualty reports, trying to understand how humanity's survival instinct had reshaped galactic civilization in a matter of days. "Teacher, were we right to destroy those worlds?" asked Kim So-young during a history lesson. Her teacher, Ms. Park Yoon-hai, paused carefully before answering. "That's a question every generation will have to answer for themselves, So-young. We made a choice when faced with extinction. Whether it was right or wrong, we must live with the consequences forever." Admiral Ko Hyunwoo, now retired from military service, spent his days tending his vegetable garden outside Seoul. His granddaughter, Jinsol, born after the war, played among the tomato plants while he worked. She would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was no longer prey but predator, where their capacity for both creation and destruction had earned them a permanent seat at the galactic table. "Grandfather, why do the other aliens look scared when they see humans?" Jinsol asked innocently. Ko paused in his weeding, choosing his words carefully. "Because we showed them what we're capable of when we're afraid, little one. The galaxy will never forget that lesson. The price of humanity's survival would haunt them forever, but they had survived. In a galaxy where might determined right, they had claimed their place through the ultimate demonstration of power."